Hi, Om Namah Shivaya. How are you? This is me when I was 5. I was asking my mother, I told her that I want to bring world peace. So in Purim, which is our Halloween, so she bought me a costume of a beauty queen. She thought it's funny. But I was surprised because the world peace never showed. And then I had another birthday. I was 6. And then I asked my mom for world peace for my birthday. So she told me that she's very sorry, but maybe one day. I'm sure you've heard that Shimon Peres, who was our 9th president, passed away today. And he was my teacher, my mentor, everything. And he always told me, never, one day. This is mine, you can just throw it somewhere. Thanks. Anyway, when I was 11 and a half, I saw a TV commercial of a nonprofit here in Israel called Ilan. It's an NGO that helps people with disabilities. And I remember that in this TV commercial, a mother, she brings her daughter to have dinner, and her daughter, she's on a wheelchair, and she just smiles. And I fell in love with this girl from this TV commercial, and I decided I'm going to call Ilan, this NGO, and look for this girl. So I called them and told them that I'm looking for her. So they told me that she doesn't live in my hometown, but there is another kid that will be very happy to have me as a friend, and that he's a 3-year-old, that he had CP, that he can't speak and he can't walk, and probably he'll never be able to speak or walk, and physically can't do anything on his own, but he understands everything. So I never met somebody with special needs before, so I was a bit scared before I met him. And they asked me to come once a week for 1 hour to be his tutor, and like a personal tutorship. And I remember when I first came to his house and I saw his big brown eyes and face full of freckles, and so immediately I fell in love with him. And I remember calling to my mother right after and told her, Mom, I found world peace. That was the thing that I've been looking for my whole life, and I didn't know what it is. So my time with him grew from 1 hour to 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I used to finish school and just run to his home. And back then, my parents got divorced, and we had a lot of financial challenges. And I remember that Kfir, that was his name, he kind of provided me all the love I was lacking at my own home, and he accepted me no matter what. So whenever I was sad, he used to just cry with me, or whenever I was happy, he used to laugh with me. And I used to tell him all my secrets, and he couldn't tell it to anybody because he couldn't speak, so it was very comfortable. We used to do everything together. But growing up next to him brought a lot of concerns or questions to my mind. The first was what happened when he will grow up. So I always dream about the day that, in Israel we have funny dreams. The day that I'll go to do my military service, and the day that I'll fly to India to do my trip, like all the Israelis here, and the day that I'll study in the university and get married. And I knew that the answers to those questions with him is probably that I don't think he will fly to India or do military service, not because he can't, but because the Israeli society will never create these, opportunities for him to do all those things. So that really bothered me. And the second thing that bothered me was growing up next to him was the understanding that the biggest difference actually was whenever we went out to the street. So whenever we went out to the street, people always look at me as if I was a teenage saint helping the poor disabled kid, taking care of the disabled child. No one looked at him and saw how funny, smart, stubborn kid he was, and the mutual relationship we have. Even one time he came to my home, and I remember my mother calling our neighbor to come and see her daughter, her wonderful daughter, and how she's taking care of this handicapped kid. And you know, that really bothered me. And the third was the understanding that the biggest difference between us is not the fact that I can't walk, that I can and he can't walk, and I can speak and he can't. That the biggest difference between us is the natural opportunities we have to experience simple, normal childhood. So the thing that kids with special needs are suffer the most from is just the lack of social life and friends. They often feel very, very lonely. Every human being, but especially if you have disabilities, because he cannot just pick up the phone and call somebody and just go out and play on the park on his own. He needed help to do those things. So those kind of things really bothered me growing up next to him. And when I was 16, I joined the leadership development program in my high school. And I remember my teacher, saying that I'm not fulfilling my potential and I should go to that program. And then I came to this program and I saw that all the rest of the kids who never fulfilled their potential, which is actually the kids who didn't have good grades. So we went there, and they told us that, by the way, the name of this program is LEAD. It's a very original name for a leadership development program. But anyway, so we went there, and they asked us to think of something in the society that bothers us, and a solution to that need we identified. And there was lots of things that bothered me when I was 16, but mainly the stuff that I just shared with you. And I thought that a good solution to that will be if Kfir and his friends will join a youth movement. Youth movements are pretty big in Israel. Every kid and teenager participates in a youth movement, some kind of a youth movement. When you go to a youth movement, you have friends, and you go and you contribute to your community, and you wear the uniform and you sing the songs, and you have social framework. So I thought that could be a good idea if you will join this kind of youth movement. So I asked the youth movement in my hometown to accept Kfir and his friends, but they asked me if, I remember they saying to me, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to change diapers inside the activities? Like, how do you think it will work? And then I learned that not every kid and teenager could be part of a youth movement, so I decided I'm going to create one that will accept everybody, and I call this youth movement Crumble Wings. This name doesn't mean anything, but sometimes I make up like stories to make it sound something. But Crumble is just the Israeli sweet, and wings, so we can spread our wings and reach everybody. That was the whole thing. And what I did is I actually duplicated the model of Adi and Kfir into a group, this personal tutorship into a group. So through Kfir, I met kids with special needs and their families, and I reached out to them and asked them to join once a week for 3 hours. And I went to my school, and like I'm standing in front of you right now, I went to different classes, and I asked people to come to be tutors. And I hooked them up too with one kid. And we met once a week for 3 hours just to play. And that was the best time in our lives. And we kind of lived from one week to another, from one activity to the next one. And we learned back then that, first of all, we all have special needs. And we learned to accept our own disabilities. And we learn authenticity because of them. And it grew really fast. And I didn't have a manual on how to create a youth movement. And I just had this model. I thought, okay, we need a place. So how do you get a place? I just sent faxes to the mayor of my hometown. When I talk to teenagers, I explain them that fax is a page that you send from one side and it comes out on the other side. No? Faxes. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I sent faxes to the mayor of my hometown, and he didn't respond, or he didn't get to him, I don't know. So I decided I'm going to protest in front of him so he can get a place. And I found out that every Friday morning he goes to this coffee shop with his friends. So I went out there on my own with a sign saying that the mayor of my hometown is not giving a place to the first and only youth movement for children and youth with and without special needs. Like, no one could read anything I wrote. But I was standing outside of this coffee place, and no one passes like for 3 hours. It was very sad because in my head I like imagined everybody burning stuff and, you know, like this whole city kind of something happening. Anyway, and then the waitress came to me and she asked me, "Girl, what are you doing?" So I started to yell at her. It's like, "You don't..." Anyway, and she bought me Coke. I remember that, and then I answered to him and I started to yell at him. Anyway, next time we already had a place. So the whole story of how we started was kind of like that. Me thinking, okay, we need this, we need that. The best way to do that is to, I don't know, to fight for it, even if you don't need to fight. After 1 year, we already had 4 branches in 4 different cities. And all branches were established by teenagers like myself back then. Aside from a place and the kids and the tutors, we had the activities, and we had special cars that drove the kids to the activities and back. For 3 reasons. One, I wanted to give the parents one afternoon for themselves. Because I know how much you're familiar with being a special parent, but many times it could be very tiring because you need to drive your kids and to take him everywhere, and you need to look after him or her. So I wanted to give the parents one afternoon for themselves. I remember even one time I came to one of the branches, and one of the mothers, she brought her daughter for the first time to the activity, and she was sitting aside and crying. So I came to her and asked her what happened. So she said, I asked her, "Aren't you happy to see your daughter having so much fun and, you know, having friends and everything?" So she said that she's really happy for that, but the reason why she's crying is because all she can think of is what will happen next week when she has 3 hours to herself, but she can't remember what makes her happy. So she doesn't know what she'll do when she has 3 hours to herself. And that moment kind of really was really meaningful to me to understand the place of the parents. But anyway, so I needed cars to give the parents one afternoon. Also, I wanted the kids to come on their own. That was another reason, and also logistic reasons. You know, they lived far away. But I wasn't aware that the special cars cost money. So what happened that after a year, my father, he called me and he said, we were sitting in our living room. He said, "Adi, do you see this television over here?" And I said, "Yes, Father." He said, "Okay, it's not going to be here in a few days from now." And I said, "Why?" And he says, "Because you owe 180,000 shekel to a car agency and you're just 17 for driving everybody to those branches. And yeah, so good luck with that." So I started to calculate how many times I will need to babysit in order to cover for this debt. By the way, it's 180,000. It's like, yeah, I was talking in shekel. In rupee, it's like millions of rupees. Anyway, and then I found out that in Israel you have newspapers, economic newspapers with names of rich people. Most of them donate those buildings that we're just sitting in. And I didn't know any of them, but I thought to myself, okay, I asked the kids from the branch, I said, okay, we will wake up every morning and we will mark the names of the people who we see in the newspapers. And the name that will be repeated the most, he will pay for the car. So then, yeah. So there was one name that repeated. It was 2002. I think she donated the building over there. Her name is Sherry Harrison. And so I told the kids, okay, we need to find out where she lives, where she cut her hair, I don't know, everything. So we hunted her, and she paid for the first death of Crumble Wings, and this is how we started. I think basically all those stories about the mayor, about this lady, was me just not knowing the rules. Today I know the rules too much. I know who I should talk to when, and I become kind of a politician, I think, many times. And I sometimes say, okay, what happened when I was 16? I just didn't know the rules. It's like, okay, we need to pay somebody. She has money, she will pay. We need a place. The mayor is not responding. Okay, he will respond if I'll see him in a coffee, you know. So that's how we started. Oh, okay. So today, Crumble Wings operate 54 branches with more than 4,500 kids and teenagers. Thank you. Actually, it's not from me because I left the organization 2 years ago when it was just, I think, 12 or something branches. And ever since I left, they brought the organization to become 50-something branches. So it's basically the people who are leading the organization today who did the scaling of everything, or most of it. Yeah, so I left the organization 2 years ago. I don't know if I'll talk about it. We'll see. We'll see how close we'll get with this conversation, how much time we have. Okay, we'll get to this. So actually, this is Shimon Peres, who just passed away today. And this is, it was here before I knew. I mean, this is something I use often. It was in 2009 we received the Presidential Award from him for leading social change in the Israeli society. It was really special because it wasn't for operating a youth movement for children with and without special needs. It was for leading social change. And he was talking about us developing this sixth sense in youth for seeing another person and seeing what he's capable. And it was the first time that I didn't receive an award and the organization received an award. And that's when I decided that I need to leave one day. It just took me a few years. Because I was really scared to leave the organization. I was scared that I'll be forgotten. I was scared that they will do better without me. I was scared that the organization will collapse without me. I was scared because I thought that I can't do anything else. And you know, it was very, very challenging. But I knew that this is my responsibility as a social entrepreneur to make sure that the organization will be sustainable and not be dependent on me. So it was the most difficult thing I did, but the thing that I'm proud of the most. Maybe Reichman will someday make the same transformation. Okay, good that he's not here. Kfir, he passed away 8 years ago. I was in India, in Kerala, when he passed away. No, sorry, I was in Leh. I was in Ladakh when he passed away. I remember it was very cold in Leh, and I had this dream, like it always happened in those stories, right? And I called, and everything was frozen, like you could not fly out of Leh then. So I was stuck in Leh, and then I called my mom, and she told me. And yeah, but he's with me every day, and I feel very, very blessed and honored that I had the privilege of getting to know somebody like him, that in spite of the fact that he couldn't walk and he couldn't speak, he just led me to lead this change. And I see a little bit of him in me and every kid and teenager in Crumble Wings still today. Yes. How much time do I have? 5-10 minutes. Okay. Let me think. We'll try to do it fast. This is, ooh, okay. This is a picture from the Knesset during the Holocaust Memorial Day many years ago. As you can see in this picture, people are standing, silent. You know, in the Holocaust Memorial Day, we have the sirens and everybody are standing 1 minute silence, and then in the evening time, you have all the official ceremonies and these kind of things. But 6 years ago, something really, really weird happened, and I was driving my car, listening to the radio. Many, many sad songs were playing. And then I asked myself what happened. And I was talking to my brother, and I said, why there was so many sad songs in the radio? And said, okay, it's the Holocaust Memorial Day. And I was like, no way, how can it be that I forgot? And he said, I don't know, I think we were both educated the right way, and maybe we lost you somewhere along the way, but I don't know. Anyway, so I asked him if he's going to a ceremony or something. So he told me that he's going to the Tel Aviv official ceremony that evening, so I came with him. So we sat in the crowd, Tel Aviv municipality official ceremony for the Holocaust Memorial Day. Okay, it's a really big thing in Israel. In general, the memory of the Holocaust, but specifically this day. So we're sitting in this ceremony, and I was looking back at the audience, and I saw that we're the only one under the age of 60 in the crowd. And I was thinking to myself, it's really weird. Where is everybody? Why everybody's here is so old? No offense to the people if there's like 60 ups. Nah, no. Okay, anyway, but so I was thinking to myself, why? And then a ceremony started with Holocaust survivors lighting the torch. This is happening in all the ceremonies. And I was thinking to myself that we are the only one, we are the last one to know them in person. My kid will never have the opportunity to meet in person a Holocaust survivors because those are the last few years that they are with us. So I almost forgot it's the Holocaust Memorial Day. I was the only one under the age of 60 in the crowd, and understanding that we are the last one to know them in person, the survivors. And then the ceremony started, and it was the same like every year, like all ceremonies I've been to since I can remember myself. So I fell asleep because it was boring. And at the end of the ceremony, there was the anthem. So we stood up. That's how I woke up. And and I was going to my car. Suddenly, I started to hear people shouting from the windows in the streets because there was the soccer game, the international soccer game that evening. I was like, now I know where's everybody. Now, with all those feelings, I started to ask myself, where does this be this day in 10 years from now when the survivors won't be here? And why do I feel so disconnected? So I started to talk to people, and I heard more and more people, my age and younger, feeling the same. Just no one said anything because it's taboo. You cannot touch the Holocaust Memorial Day in Israel. That's the one thing you never talk about, you never touch. So a year later, I did something, and I sent an email, no more faxes, to 8 friends, and I invited them to my own living room, to my own house. And I did something, I called it Zikaron B'Salon, Memories at Home. And 40 people came, not 8, 40. I didn't know most of them. We sat together during the Holocaust Memorial Day in my living room, 40 people, strangers. And I invited the Holocaust survivor to share her story with us in an intimate gathering. And then the second part, we sang songs together. And we read text. And the third part was a conversation about Israeli society today and Jewish values and international values. And you know what happened at the end of that evening? We all felt it was the most meaningful and inspiring evening we had in our lives, regardless of the Holocaust. This year we had 500,000 people that opened their houses in Israel on that day, and instead of going to ceremonies, including our president, and did Zikaron Basalon. 5 years later, same concept. And I tell you what, in a few years from now, when you come on that day, I believe you can walk in the street and just enter a home of somebody you know or you don't know and sit together and reconnect. Not because you need to, because you can learn from it today. And that's how you make this day accessible and relevant again. And that's how you make it not dependent on the survivors. Half of those houses was with no survivors. There's second generation, recorded testimonies, etc. But the interesting part was that it happened with Israelis traveling in India, in South America, with Germans in Berlin, that their parents and grandparents were Nazis. And they hosted in Skype conversations survivors at that beginning of the evening. And it happened here in all the prisons, all the jails, prisoners. That was their way to do this, because they cannot be part of ceremonies. Shelters of women in need, people with special needs, people with hearing deaf problems that did it in sign language. So that was the, very, very important, very special. I want to finish with talking to you guys on 5 things of how do you lead a social change or a social impact in your community, the way I see it. I'm very excited about it. First of all, you identify a need, right? You need to find something that bothers you. Now, there's lots of things that bothering me, and I'm not doing anything with them. Lots of things that bothering me, and I'm trying to do, but I'm not creating this kind of an impact with them. It needs to be something that really bothers me. Like the thing with Kfir and his friends and myself really kept me awake at night. The understanding that the Holocaust Memorial Day needs to be fixed, needs to be reshaped, really, really bothered me. So that's the first. Second is to ask yourself, what's your vision? Now, a vision is a picture that doesn't exist in this current moment, right? And we can imagine it. What was Coca-Cola's original vision? Do you know? Coca-Cola. What?
No idea.
To be in a distance of an elbow from every person on the globus. The water in Israel belongs to Coca-Cola. Can you do like this? Can? Are you in a distance of an elbow from Coca-Cola? Some of you. Yeah? So that was the original vision of Coca-Cola. Do you know what Google vision is? And don't tell me to make a lot of money and control the world, because that's a strategy. Yes, to organize the world information, make it accessible and useful to everyone. How many people we have on this planet? 7 billion. How many connected to the internet? 2. Great. So in order for Google to start to fulfill its vision, we need another 5 billion people to be connected to the internet. And even if all the world's population will be connected to Wi-Fi, it doesn't mean that all the world's information is organized, accessible, and useful to everybody, right? But that's the Northern Light. That was Coca-Cola Northern Light. That was Google. That's the compass. And, Crumble Wings, the vision is creating together a place and meaning for everybody. Now, operating a youth movement, that's the Gmail or YouTube, if you wish. So, by the way, everybody has a vision. Everybody. Yeah. So, third thing is to wait, not to jump. Now, we always have this illusion that now it's not a good time. Yes. When the kids will grow up, when I'll finish this, when I'll finish my degree, then I'll do something. Or probably it's go to the gym, right? The gym is the most, or do any kind of sport. Anyway, that's bullshit. Sorry. I mean, If something bothers you and you have a vision, just jump. Entrepreneurship is like a bungee jumping. You jump and then you plan. I didn't have a manual on how to create a youth movement. I didn't have a manual on how to reshape the Holocaust Memorial Day. I started small in my home, with fear in my hometown. I had this big vision, but I started small and I jumped. Now, I'm sharing you those stories, but you have no idea how many stories I have about all the time I failed or people, said no. But the most important rule about jumping is to understand with social entrepreneurship in general, that you don't ask for permission. Worst scenario, you ask for forgiveness. You don't ask for permission. Worst scenario, you say you're sorry. Yeah? If I would have asked the Ministry of Education to start a youth movement, or if I would have asked Yad Vashem, that's the biggest institution of the Holocaust Memorial, So I often apologize. Fourth is to find other people. So one cannot lead a change on his own. That's another lie. When we have this person, right? We are seeing this specific person like myself standing in front of you thinking that's, oh my God, what he created. It's never he, it's never she, it's many people. I didn't create Crumble Wings by myself. Of course not Zikaron Basalon, not Google, although my mom believed that I did. It's always a creation of many, many, many people. Even this place, in spite of the fact that people usually call it Reichman, it's a creation of many people. By the way, I love Reichman. It sounds like he's a really, really close. No, I really, really love him. It's not, I don't know why, because I'm here. Okay. And the last thing, guys, is to understand with social entrepreneurship that it's not about you and it doesn't belong to you and it's not yours. And that's very challenging. Social entrepreneurs, it's like somebody who's given a gift to the world, and once you give it, it's no longer yours. It's very challenging. You know why? Entrepreneurship, it comes with what? Ego, thank you. Great. Yes. So on my last slide, I'm telling you something that could be like, it's a conflict, right? That's like, I'm just an instrument, I'm not important, it's not about me, it's about the kids, it's about the memory, it's about, But on the other side, when I'm saying, okay, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to change the Holocaust Memorial Day, I'm going to create the biggest youth movement in Israel, that holds on lots of ego. So what's the solution? Sorry? Quit at the right time. That's very painful. That could be, that's a tactic. But I think in death, it's just taking your ego to the gym every day, just reminding yourself that it's not about you. And it's challenging. It's very, very painful. When I left Crumble Wings, I had I can't believe I can't believe they don't invite me, and I can't believe no. It's like, I thought I should be everywhere. And it took me time to understand that founders tend to overstay their welcome. But if you're doing a good job, like with kids, they will invite you for dinner on Friday evening or something, or on holiday. But they will create their own families. And yeah, that's the way I see a good entrepreneur.
Maybe accept the change and the risk, then you move forward.
Exactly. That's my last line. You knew it. Okay, guys, thank you very much. It was a pleasure.